Happy New Year! It's 2023, and as is starting to become a tradition on this channel, well, this is the third time I've done it, so that's a tradition in my book. This is the time to look back at the previous year and talk about all the TV and movies that I've watched that I've not got around to discussing elsewhere on this channel. So, as we do, let's go in order. Now, the earliest new thing I watched was actually around March. It was the new Scream, or Scream 5, which I rented on YouTube. Honestly, it's been a big boon, YouTube, ever since I got my smart TV, because it's made catching up with new stuff a lot easier. About I don't know how long ago it was, 4 or 5 years, when the video shop shut. The last video shop in the area closed down, and I didn't have a smart TV, and I certainly couldn't afford to buy one just for the hell of it. Made catching up with new movies, especially any new movies that didn't go to the cinema, basically fucking impossible. Unless you want to fork out $30 for a Blu-ray on a blind buy. And half the time when I did do that, it ended up being I didn't like it. So thank God for YouTube and that, that's all I can say. Anyway, all I can say about Scream 5, or whatever you want to call it, is I'm glad I didn't blind buy it. You know, I had my doubts about Scream 4, given the fact that it had been 10 years since the previous one. You know, the original 3 were kind of touted as a trilogy, and suddenly we're doing a 4th one, and I'm like, really? Especially 10 years after. But I was very pleasantly surprised by Scream 4. I thought Scream 4 was great. It's probably my favourite of the sequels. I had my doubts about this one, given, again, an even longer gap, and the fact that there's no Wes Craven or Kevin Williamson this time. Unfortunately, I was right on this occasion. This movie is awful. First thing, it's boring. How the hell do you make a Scream movie boring? Don't ask me, ask them, they made it. The original trio are, sadly, very clearly getting too old for this shit, which is probably why they're largely sidelined. And of course, Dewey is treated horrendously. But of course, he's a middle-aged heterosexual white man, so fuck him, right folks? In favour of a new cast. This might work if the new cast weren't so utterly bland, nondescript and faceless, including the new female lead. Honestly, I have no idea who half of these fucking people even are. The characters are non-existent, but I barely even recognise any of the actors. Bar Dylan Minnette, who's clearly getting way too old to be playing high school students. Even Jenna Ortega, at the time I'd never seen her before. I'm becoming slightly more aware of her now. And I did think she was about the only interesting one of the new cast. Really? I mean, it seemed kind of nondescript, honestly, the cast. When you look back at the days when Scream movies got actual names in them, half of these people have no idea who they are. Oh dear. Or maybe I'm just getting old. Either way, this movie bored me and depressed me. It was basically Halloween 2018 all over again. And apparently Scream 6 is already on the way. Sorry, I'm out. It was around this time that I also watched All of Us Are Dead on Netflix. Now, again, I've done a full video on this, so I won't go over it again. All I'll just say, loved it. Fantastic zombie apocalypse, high school thriller horror. Really, really good. Korean. Fantastic in general, I would say. Better than anything UK or US TV are churning out these days. Lots of fun. It was also around this time that I saw, again, I rented it on YouTube, Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, I've never taken to Tom Holland or the MCU version of Spider-Man, and the same applied to Andrew Garfield. Really, I liked the original trilogy with Tobey and Kirsten and all of that stuff. The others, I was thoroughly pissed off when they just chucked it all in the bin for no apparent reason and started rebooting it and then rebooting it again. And honestly, I've tried the Holland ones and I just find them really, really boring. The reason I watched this one, of course, was basically it's almost Spider-Man 4, because we get the return of the original Spider-Man movie verse. Doc Ock doesn't really do that much, but as if acknowledging the fact that the Raimi trilogy is superior to everything that's come after, the main villain is the Green Goblin, and Willem Dafoe is as effective and chilling as ever. The really big draw, of course, is the return of the other Spider-Men, and it's good that they both get plenty to do and aren't just kind of glorified cameos. The flip side of this, although it's kind of great to see him again, and even though he looks older, Tobey Maguire, he doesn't look old, and you can't help but feel that he could actually still be Spider-Man and have been for the last decade or so, had they not thrown his series under a bus for no goddamn freaking reason. I generally liked it. I managed to sit through its butt-numbing running time anyway, and the nostalgia bait was a lot of fun. I was actually so enjoyed it enough that I actually went and tried to watch the second Tom Holland Spider-Man. I tried to watch the first, I found it very dull. I enjoyed this enough that I actually tried to watch the second one, and I still found it very dull. Oh dear. So while I did enjoy this, it just kind of reminded me of how much they screwed the pooch with this series, and I still don't really care about Spider-Man going forward, especially since there doesn't seem to be any chance that we're going to get any more Tobey movies. I just don't care. I'm sorry. Again, it was not long after this, about April, I think, that I watched No Time to Die, the most recent James Bond movie. I have to say, this one took some time to get through. In fact, the first time I turned it off after 45 minutes because it was just so boring. I did manage to get through the rest of it the next day. It does get better as it goes on, though that's not necessarily saying very much. The much vaunted kind of shock ending kind of barely raised an eyebrow for me, honestly, since we know that James Bond is going to be back in a different incarnation. And I never liked Craig's anyway. And I don't know, I know a lot of the shock jock YouTubers are going, they've killed James Bond, the character that's gone for 60 years. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Daniel Craig's was a reboot from day one. This version was never the same as all the others. You know, I mean, the others were fairly loose continuity. How is he still doing this in the 90s when he was doing it in the 60s, you know? But with the Craig's, it was specifically a reboot. So giving this version a definitive ending, I'm sorry, I don't get the shock outrage. I know it gets clicks, but who cares? All I can hope is that the next James Bond actually has some charisma and both character and actor actually enjoy being James Bond. But again, this is just one of those things where, honestly, I'm not interested. I don't see me being interested again, really. I love the Roger Moore period. I don't mind the Timothy Daltons, but the Roger Moore stuff is really the stuff I love. None of the rest of it has ever really done it for me. Again, around April, I watched Dexter New Blood, the brief revival of the serial killer thriller. It got off to a very good start, better than the majority of revivals. I've really kind of come to hate pretty much all of these revivals and reboots because they always just come across as being terrible. A lot of them are really depressing as well because everybody looks so much older and they're still kind of in the same place doing the same stuff, and the overall effect is actually just depressing. This, at least, it hasn't been that long. It was only like 10 years, and Dexter still doesn't look much older. And we have a new locale and a new supporting cast that kind of gave it a fresher feel and made it feel like, you know, it isn't just everyone's been standing in place for nearly a decade. Dexter is still Dexter, and having Deb now becoming kind of the ghost of his conscience instead of his father both makes psychological sense and added a bit more kind of reassuring familiarity to things. I thought that got off to a really good start. In fact, I thought it was really, really good, maybe up until the last couple of episodes. And I know a lot of people hate the ending. I don't think I'd go quite so far as hate, but it does seem to be kind of rather rushed. It seems to have been done solely to kind of, spoilers, kill him off so nobody can ask for any more. which seemed, I don't know. I mean, why? Because honestly, I thought, like I said, I thought this was the best revival that I had seen. Intelligently done, very entertaining, very gripping, a strong villain. It kind of seems a shame to bring it back in such an intelligent way just to do one season and then kill off the lead, when this setup could have conceivably run for a couple of seasons. And yeah, the ending doesn't really make much sense. Again, spoilers. They went to such lengths to make it quite clear that Harrison was basically a psycho, just like his dad, that him suddenly turning on Dexter and trying to take the moral high ground in the last 5 minutes was like, what? What? Did you not literally try to murder a fellow student and then frame him as a potential school shooter not 3 episodes ago? And now you're taking the moral high ground against your dad? What? So yeah, that was a bit disappointing. Because for the most part, I actually thought it was very good. And it's like, it seems kind of a bitch of a shame to bring it back, to do it so well, just to kind of rush another bad ending and end it permanently. Why? I don't know. That's kind of a shame, in my opinion. In May, I've already reviewed this in my Halloween thing. I made the heinous mistake of trying to watch Halloween Kills. Holy shit. 2018 was bad, but this managed to be even worse. Holy shit, it was awful. Awful. If anyone tells you that this trilogy is better than the original sequels, walk away slowly, because they're clearly fucking nuts. I have no intention of forcing myself to sit through Halloween Ends. Holy shit, that was bad. Skipping forward to August, and I watched a kind of a mini series, I guess you would call, limited series as they call it these days. I just call it a mini series because I'm old. Which was Netflix Echoes, with Michelle Monaghan, who plays identical twins who swap lives and identities every year on their birthdays, until one of them vanishes and then the other starts to find that she may not have known her twin as well as she thought she did. This was actually a really good psychological thriller with plenty of twists. I actually really enjoyed this. It was very good. My only real complaint was some god-awful green screen in the last episode, which was almost Terror of the Autons bad. September, and I watched another show on Netflix, and it was another Korean show, and it was another Korean zombie show called Happiness, which was actually 2021. I actually noted this earlier in the year, but I literally kind of just watched All of Us Are Dead, so I kind of put it off because I thought I don't really want the same thing so soon, you know. But it kind of came up again on my Netflix recommended thing, and it had been a while, so I thought, yeah, okay, I'll give this a chance. And it was actually very good. It's suitably different from All of Us Are Dead, even though it's going to the same. But the zombies are kind of different. They're almost like a cross between modern zombies and vampires. There's a bunch of people trapped in an apartment building, and some of the residents may be just as dangerous as the monsters. All this, and even a rather touching little love story between the two very likable police officer leads. I also had to snicker at the fact that the zombie outbreak was caused not by a virus, but by a pharmaceutical drug that was created to combat COVID. Safe and effective, no doubt. Oh boy. Yeah, I really enjoyed Happiness. Actually, that's 2 Korean shows I've seen this year. That's better than anything coming out of either the US or the UK. I think those two the West really needs to pull its game up at the moment, because yowza. September, I think it was September or possibly October, I got hold of the new Abominable Snowmen Doctor Who animation DVD. To be honest, I found this kind of dull. to be even more brutally honest, I've kind of gone off the animations. You know, I loved the special edition of Power and Shardar, although I've always loved Shardar, and the cartoony style of the animation kind of suited that story. And I'm one of the few that actually really enjoyed Fury from the Deep. But I have struggled with most of the rest, including like the Faceless Ones and Evil of the Daleks. Now, it could be the fault of the stories themselves, but then again, I have a similar issue with the animated episodes of the Ice Warriors, which I otherwise really like. But the animations of the Ice Warriors, which are very similar to the style of the last few years, rather than something like the Moonbase, just completely lack the atmosphere of the live action episodes. And I can't help but think that that is the case here as well. I mean, I've always liked the extant episodes of Evil, Faceless, and The Abominable Snowmen, but the animations just do not capture the same feel. I have to be honest, and I've never thought I'd actually say this, but I'm not entirely sad that they are done for the moment. And if they come back, I really think they need to be a lot better, because they're just not doing it at all. They're really, I mean, some of the stuff in The Abominable Snowman, some of the stuff with the Yeti attack and that was just laughable. It was just, there should have been scary scenes, and they were just comical, with the animated figures just standing around while these very unimpressive Yeti kind of just knocked them over in a very comic fashion. It was just, yeah, it was kind of embarrassing. Early November, I saw Top Gun Maverick, which has been a big thing this year. In fact, it's been the biggest movie of the year by a long way, though I have never even sat through the original. Honestly, even though I'm a huge 80s movie fan, Top Gun just never really looked like my cup of tea. So, again, I wasn't moved to go to the cinema for it. Honestly, I haven't been to the cinema since early 2020. Maybe Mission Impossible, then again, maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, did I think it was the greatest movie ever? Well, no. And I'm not sure it really lived up to the borderline insane hype around it. That being said, it's still pretty good. It's very watchable. Tom Cruise is as good as you'd expect Tom Cruise to be. And it's basically a good old-fashioned solid slice of movie making and crowd-pleasing entertainment of the type that Hollywood used to be able to churn out in its sleep, but for some reason now seems to be largely incapable of producing, which is no doubt the main reason why this film has been so rapturously received by a thoroughly bored modern audience. This was a good movie, though again, I can't help but think that its massive success is less on the quality of the movie and more an indictment of how thoroughly dreary the modern movie scene is otherwise. That's just my opinion. Next up, also in November, was The Black Phone, which was a 2022 kind of horror thriller. A young boy is abducted by the child killer that is haunting his small town. Trapped in a soundproof basement, things do not look very good for him until he starts to receive phone calls on a supposedly dead phone from the killer's former victims, urging him to fight back. I thought this was a pretty solid, effective little chiller. Again, I wouldn't say it was a 5-star movie or anything, but it was pretty solid, and pretty solid stands out quite a lot these days. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. Next up in November was Wednesday, the new Addams Family / Tim Burton series. It's got a lot of hype. It's been very successful. I liked the trailer, so I was like, okay, I'll have a look at this. Unfortunately, I was a bit disappointed, to be honest with you. Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. To be honest, to me, it kind of feels like a sort of a standard CW supernatural teen drama that someone somewhere had the bright idea of grafting the Addams Family onto in order to get it more attention than it would have got otherwise, and that clearly worked. Now, don't get me wrong, Jenna Ortega, who, as I said, was the only modern member of the awful new Scream movie to make any kind of positive impression on me, is great as Wednesday, a more than worthy successor to Christina Ricci, and is very cute too. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get into it. I kind of think they should have made it a comedy. Trying to make it this supernatural teen drama, it's kind of out of kilter with her character and the dark humor of her character. I don't know. To me, I guess I know a lot of people won't agree. To me, it felt like it just feels like a very ill fit. It also didn't help that while I like what was her name? Enid, her perky little blonde roommate. She's pretty cute too, and their kind of chalk and cheese friendship is a lot of fun. Honestly, pretty much every other character I found incredibly boring, and the plot and the mystery, I just didn't care about any of it. And again, I'm sorry, I wanted to like it. It's not like I'm sitting there going, this is going to be crap. No, I wanted to get into it, and I just, I liked Wednesday. I liked her roommate. The rest of the characters and the overall plot and story, it just sent me to freaking sleep, honestly. Yeah, I'm sorry. Needed more humor. Needed more of Wednesday and her roommate, in my opinion. They were the only two interesting and fun characters in it. It's probably so telling that honestly they had way more chemistry together than she did with any of the guys that were the pseudo romantic interests, but both of whom were just incredibly dull to me. I was kind of hoping she and her roommate would get together at some point. Maybe in season 2. I mean, it is a Netflix show after all. No, but seriously, I just couldn't get into it. I'm sorry. Again, like the actress, liked her character. It looked nice. Again, I liked the roommate character, but everybody else boring, and the overall plot boring, and it just felt like a bit of a weird mix to me, doing this essentially serious supernatural teen drama mystery with what is basically a comedy character. It just didn't mix to me. I'm sorry. I found it a real struggle even just to get through the episodes, because I just didn't care. I didn't care about the most of the characters. Didn't care about the overall plot. Wednesday was funny and cute. The roommate was funny and cute, and they were funny and cute together. Everything else, don't care. Sent me to sleep. Sorry. I guess it's. I don't know. I wonder about me and modern television these days. It's just not going well. It really isn't. And I guess that about wraps up the year. Not a lot else to say. I think it's been an okay year on the channel. Probably not quite as good as the last couple of years, and you may have noticed not quite as productive, especially in the second half. It's just been a really difficult year. Work, family illnesses. It's just, it's been a very stressful year. And music videos especially have kind of had to fall by the wayside. I mean, again, that's partly down to the fact that it's difficult to come up with ideas for music videos. It's more difficult to come up with ideas for music videos than it is to just review something. The last year or so, 2021, it was fairly easy because half the time I was just doing the year tributes, so it was like, what year am I doing this? what year am I doing this week? So that's fairly easy. Once you finish that, you're kind of like, what am I going to do now? And it really, you really have to kind of hang around for inspiration for do something. Plus, like I said, extra work and other stuff, and doing music vids, you know, it takes 5 times longer than it takes to do a review, to do a music vid. Because you do a review, I sit down with my microphone. I don't even write them now. I just sit down with my microphone, mumble something for 10 minutes, and then stick a couple of photos on, and it's done. You know, it doesn't take very long at all. Whereas music vids, oh God, you know, I mean, it takes an hour to download all the footage that you need, and then you got to do the editing, and you know, it's a lot of work. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to do it as much this year. Still, I don't think it's been a bad year. I think there still have been some decent music vids. I think it's been okay. Just perhaps not quite as productive as previous years, but I mean, yeah, that pace of I know some YouTubers, they're pumping out videos every day. I could not do that. I mean, I get that, you know, most of them are getting incentive in the sense that they're getting paid. I just can't. I haven't got the energy. I haven't got the energy. I don't know where they get it. I mean, I don't know. I guess a lot of it is them kind of reacting to news as well and stuff like that. And half the entertainment news that comes out these days I just don't care about. I don't think that would make for very interesting videos. Here's today's run of movie and TV news that I couldn't give a crap about. Not necessarily riveting stuff, I don't think. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this year, last year's now, output. Hopefully I can keep it up this year. Happy New Year.